And I'm going to start off by reading a piece from Ernest Holmes from his 365 Days, Science of Mind. Then we'll get quiet and you'll hear some meditation music. And then in about 15 minutes, I'll bring us out. So, Ernest Holmes says, I enter into my divine inheritance and know that all that my inward vision perceives will be mine. Like Moses, I stand on the mountaintop of spiritual perception. Now, free from all obstruction, the vista is perfect. The vision is sublime. There are no clouds in the sky. I look out across innumerable other mountain peaks, and in each I recognize another divine subject of the heavenly presence. The gates of my soul are lifted up, and a flood tide of intuition flows through. Confronted with discord, I see harmony. Confronted with unhappiness, I will unmask it also by seeing through this false face to the true countenance of joy. It is written, joy comes with the morning, and I know this morning is eternal. Confronted with a sense of lack, I will unmask this false sense and reveal the divine horn of plenty. I will lift up my bowl of acceptance that it may be filled with the divine gifts. I embark upon the sea of today's experience, knowing that the heavenly pilot is at the helm. I seek the bold adventure of discovering new lands, realizing that there is a place within me where thought springs spontaneous from the infinite, and where the idea and the thing merge into one. I permit the inspiration of the divine creative genius of the universe to impart new ideas, to create new scenes, to enlarge all my horizons. I feel that the ocean beneath me is teeming with life, that the air is vibrant with invisible forces. My boat rides safe and sure, and even now I'm entering the port of attainment. So, just settling in. Oh, and taking a very deep breath in. Wait for the pause and then let it out. And another deep breath. Wait for the pause and let it out. So now we're going to have some quiet meditative music to just focus on the reading we just heard. That there is nothing but divine presence and all is well. The joy, whatever download you got, whatever you connected with inside, hold on. Hold on. Just a 15-minute meditation makes a huge difference in our bodies, our minds, how we show up for other people. And so I thank you not only for preparing yourself, but preparing the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living for what will come next. So again, thank you. Come back into the room and meet us again at 10:45.
through the power of live streaming. Thank you very much for really taking part in our morning. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the honor and the privilege of being this community's spiritual director. And we are part of a larger community called Centers for Spiritual Living. Now, Centers for Spiritual Living believe that there is one power and presence that is back of everything that there is, the creative energy, the loving support that fuels everything and everyone, whether that's things that we can see or whether it's things that we cannot see. There is one power and presence. And that we are connected to that power and presence in ways that can never be broken, because we were created by it, out of its creative stuff. And because of that, since we were created in its image and likeness, because it is creative, we are also creative. And we actually do create the experiences of our lives. Now, for me, that's the good news, because if I'm not liking an experience that I'm having in the moment, it is really within my ability to change it. So that bumper sticker really has some truth to it. Change your thinking, change your life. And we come together to support each other on this spiritual path, to remind each other who we really are at our very core, and to celebrate that truth and to celebrate life with each other. So we're very glad that you have chosen to join us this morning. My gratitude goes out to the lovely Marianne Hardy for her beautiful meditation this morning, the meditation that has deepened and expanded the container that our service will unfold within. And speaking of Marianne, please welcome her back to the podium. Marianne Hardy.
Good morning. All right, the theme for the year 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. Our theme for the month is Emotions. And Rev Dusty's talk title today is Looking Anger in the Eye. I'm now going to read our community's purpose statement, which is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And now I just invite you to turn within, to get quiet, and just listen to the crystal bowls wash over you with their healing, penetrating sound.
in some beautiful place, but I invite you to return to this beautiful place. My name is Carol Cross. I'm another of the licensed practitioners here at TCSL, and another person who is so delighted to welcome you to be with us today, whether you're here in person or you're joining us virtually. So it's good to see and feel you all. So we begin with one of my favorite traditions, and I would like to invite up our volunteers, Jim and Sheila, to help me with our blessing of all faiths. So, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principles of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you all so much. So next, I ask you to close your eyes as I say a blessing on this morning's event. So, I close my eyes, but it's not dark. When I close my eyes, I am lit with the divine light, that essence of spirit that is everywhere at all times, in everyone, in all things. And that essence, that energy, that presence is too big to describe, because it is peace, and it is joy, and it is love, and it is power, wisdom, abundance, grace, unity, and so much more. And it just makes me smile every time I touch into that. And as I touch into it myself, I realize I'm also touching into that in everyone who is involved in today's service, everyone in our community, everyone in our world, everything in this universe. It's all just one big mass of God stuff, and it is good. So, of course, when we are in this energy, what unfolds is divine perfection. So I say a word of blessing of all the people who volunteer to make today happen, the ones you may see on camera and the ones you may not. Always a special word of blessing for our AV team. Miss Heather, who without her, we would just be talking into the void. So a special word of blessing on Marianne for, really setting everything off on the right foot and keeping that consciousness throughout this service. A word of blessing on our musician, Lola Youngman, who just always uplifts us with her songs and with her soul. And an extra special word of blessing on Reverend Dusty, who I know today is a hollow bone, channeling the wisdom, the wonder, the humor, and most especially the love of the divine. Finally, I say a word of blessing on all of us, because this is a divine co-creation, and everyone is contributing their energy, their love, their passion, their heart, their soul, their spirit in our collective endeavor to take ourselves to higher and higher heights. And as we do so, we lift the world. So I know how great it is to be with a group of people who that's what their commitment is. So knowing that all is good, all is well, all is blessed, I just turn this over to the universe that always says yes and ask you to join me with our words, and so it is. All right. The reading for today is from Charles Fillmore. And he says, when a body of water is choppy with fitful currents of air, it cannot reflect objects clearly. Neither can we reflect the steady, strong glow of omnipotence when our mind is disturbed by anxious thoughts, fearful thoughts, or angry thoughts. So to help drive any of those kind of thoughts out of our minds and out of our hearts, we have the lovely Lola Youngman, who is going to kick this part of the service off with one of her beautiful songs. Thank you, Lola.
Is my mic on? Oh, there it is. Okay. I just wanted to tell you that normally I bring my husband to accompany me, and today I decided to be brave and accompany myself. I know I can do it. So yes, I can. Yes, this is the perfect group to do it in front of. So anyway, my first song, both songs I changed just a few words to make them suitable for today's topic. So here we go. Breathe in, I breathe out, I take in, I give out. Now I let my anger go, I release, I know, I forgive, I receive, I can feel, I believe, I am healed, I am whole, I release, I know. Breathe, to push, no need to try, no need to worry or question why. Surrender,
as positive or healthy, and we want to skip experiencing the ones that we don't want to experience, those that we perceive as negative or challenging. Most of us are taught in childhood to really shut down our emotions, or to really turn away from them, or to run away from them, or to hide from them. Our society has trained us that there are certain good emotions and certain bad emotions, and this can cause us to berate ourselves just for the mere fact of experiencing one of those absolutely normal but considered by society to be bad emotions. The underlying truth about our emotions, however, is that all emotions are beneficial and have lessons to teach us. They are amazing resources that assist us to learn more about ourselves. Our feelings and emotions can serve as a guide, or actually a processing center for areas of reflection or exploration, and are critical for our growth, for our evolution, and for our well-being. Rather than flee from difficult emotions, the invitation is for each of us to seek to face them with curiosity, to face them with wonderment, and to look for the blessings within them. By facing our emotions and looking deeply into them, we can discover the hidden beliefs that almost always lie underneath them. We can then do the healing work that's necessary to really process them, instead of running from them, instead of hiding from them, instead of ignoring them. By embracing these emotions, we can uncover the hurt, and we can uncover the pain that lives within us, and apply forgiveness and compassion and love to assist those underlying beliefs and those underlying emotions to really be able to heal once and for all. The tough times then become learning opportunities as we grow and bring balance into our lives. Welcoming painful emotions means looking them directly in the face and seeing what they have to say. Now, this requires humility and courage and strength, because I'll tell you, even though I probably don't need to tell you, it's not always an easy thing to do. To do that kind of deep exploration is not always easy. So that's why our spiritual practices are so essential to us. They provide instant support as we move through that experience, through that discovery part, through that exploration. For example, using a mantra, or journaling, or meditating, or working with a practitioner, or a prayer partner can assist us to welcome our emotions and learn from them with compassion and with tenderness and with forgiveness, rather than berating ourselves for feeling them in the first place. Deep intuitive listening during those meditations, or during a walk in the woods, or at any other time, can also serve as a guide. Our inner wisdom, that knower within us, always knows where those treasures of learning and growth live. And they can serve as a useful compass during this process. The areas to probe are those areas where we find the most resistance within us. And again, that's not always easy work to do. We can simply take our time, apply our spiritual practices to support us, and go deeper into that exploration, into that discovery, in order to be able to unpack everything that is going on underneath that experience, underneath that emotion, and to really be able to learn from it. Our journey can uncover additional work that might need to be done in some other related area, or more support that might be needed on this journey of exploration. Like anything else in life, practice makes perfect. Practice, practice, practice. In the end, this cleaning out and discovery process will yield our highest and best life. We really can't have it without doing that kind of work. So far this month, the emotions we've talked about have been fear and happiness. And today we're taking a deeper dive into, as the title suggests, anger. And so I really invite each and every single one of us, whether you're here at Sophie's or at home, to really allow yourself some understanding and some grace as you listen to the talk, and because it might allow you to become more aware of how anger shows up for you in your own life, and and a deeper understanding of what you do with it or how you cope with it when it does. So, right, anger is a basic human emotion that we all experience from time to time, right? Yeah, sure, you'd all agree with me about that. Been probably on the end of some of mine a time or two. Now, it's the emotional response that we have to an external or an internal event that we perceive as a threat, that we perceive as a violation, that we perceive as a wrongdoing, or that we perceive as an injustice. Anger, writes psychotherapist Robert Augustus Masters in his fantastic book, Spiritual Bypassing, is the primary emotional state that functions to uphold our boundaries. When we feel anger, it's an indication that something is wrong. A boundary has been crossed, or a need is not being met. It's not always about our individual selves either. Anger is the appropriate response to oppression. Now, the experience of anger is learned, and it varies from person to person. How quickly anger occurs, or how intensely it's felt, or how long it lasts, are different for every person that we encounter. For example, somebody might cry when they get angry, or other people might yell, or even other people might get really withdrawn. People vary in how easily they get angry, and as well as how comfortable they feel with those feelings of anger. Some people are always getting angry, while other people very rarely, if at all, get angry. Some people are very well aware of their anger, and others fail to notice anger even when it's popped up right in front of their face. We usually learn how to experience and deal with anger from our family of origin. There may be families where emotions are constantly expressed regardless of the consequences. And there are other families that may not be able to tolerate any kind of show of emotion at all. Often, within some families, certain family members are allowed to express certain emotions, while other family members are not allowed to do that. I.e., boys do not cry, right? Now, anger can be constructive, or it can be destructive. It can be expressed in many ways, and every single person is going to be affected by it differently. At its root, anger is a signal to each of us that something in our internal or our external environment is not in alignment with who we are at our very core. It captures our attention, and it motivates us to take action. Typically triggered by an emotional hurt, anger is usually experienced as an unpleasant feeling that occurs when we think we have been injured, or mistreated, or opposed in our long-held views, or when we are faced with obstacles that keep us from attaining our personal goals. Notice that I said when we think. The underlying truth is that anger is a physiological event that occurs in our body. A physiological event that happens to be accompanied by a voice overlay. The underlying truth of that is that the voice overlay happens almost imperceptibly before the physiological event happens inside of us. So you may not want to hear, but the underlying truth of this is that the thing that's happening out there, the circumstance, the relationship, the person standing in front of you is not the cause of your anger. The cause of your anger is that voice overlay, that thing that you thought imperceptibly before the feeling comes up inside of you. The thing that you think about what's happening in front of you, the thing that you think about the person or what it means about you. So, as I shared just a little bit ago, our emotions in general and anger specifically today often hide other issues. Its presence, when looked at with curiosity, can really be a telling and a necessary emotion for us. The problem is that we all often blame others for our anger, and it becomes a little game of abdicating our personal responsibility. If we allow it to do so, anger can lead us back to ourselves. When we get there, we often see that we are angry at ourselves for giving away our personal power or not having spoken up before about our boundaries or being somebody that we're not. There's a story about a monk who decides to meditate alone away from the monastery. And so he goes out in his boat to the middle of the lake, and he moors the boat, and he closes his eyes, and he begins to meditate. Now, after a few hours of undisturbed silence, I hope he had some sunscreen on. After a few hours of undisturbed silence, he suddenly feels the bump of another boat colliding with his own. With his eyes still closed, he senses the anger rising up within him. But when he opens his eyes, he sees that it is an empty boat that has probably gotten untethered and floated out into the middle of the lake. At that moment, the monk achieves self-realization and understands that the anger is within him. It merely needs the bump of an external object to provoke it. Let me say that again. It merely needs the bump of an external object to provoke it. From then on, whenever he came across someone who irritated him or provoked him into anger, he reminded himself the other person is merely an empty boat. The anger is within me. We all feel angry at times. It's part of the normal human experience. However, how we handle and express this anger, when we do so inappropriately, it can do harm to ourselves and to others. Anger by itself is not destructive, but the way that we try to cope with it often can be. Anger can cause the heat to rise up in us. It can cause us to lose our temper and our self-control. It's not a place from which we can think rationally. It's not a place from which we can negotiate compromise. It's not a place from which we can find an amicable resolution. It causes us to be reactive rather than proactive. We can often have a tendency to respond defensively, to be extra sensitive, and to take things more personally than we normally would do. Now, the common way that people talk about dealing with anger is to learn how to watch it arise within us and then to let it pass away. Now, for more temporary angers, such as hitting your thumb with a hammer, this works pretty good, right? We can feel the anger come up, and then we can let it pass. We don't really have a reason to do any more damage to ourselves than has already been done. However, when it comes up in other situations, such as with our friends or our family or our coworkers, we may find that the anger goes deeper. In some instances, the anger is about learning to speak our truth in a highly charged environment. Sometimes we need to allow the anger to arise and to pass before speaking. And sometimes we simply need to observe it, because there's really nothing that needs to be said or that can be said, because anything that would be said at that moment in time would simply mean to pour fuel on already troublesome situation. In those instances, our anger may be guiding us to take action, and that action might be to remove ourselves from the situation. Even Jesus had moments of anger. He showed anger when he drove out those who were buying and selling in the temple. God's house of prayer was becoming a den of thieves, and God was not being glorified. Hence, he had what Reverend Scott Aubrey calls a temple tantrum. I'm glad you laughed. It wasn't mine. A temple tantrum. Now, during those moments of anger, he drove out the money changers from the holy place that was dedicated to prayer for both Gentiles and Jews alike. He overturned their tables, and he cried out the words of Isaiah, that this house shall be a house of prayer for all people and all nations. Showing his anger was literally a cleansing. There were other times when Jesus would show his anger, but it was always very quick. There was a balance to his anger. He does not go on to rush up the steps of the temple and to continue shouting. He does not charge the palace gates. He clears the temple square, and the moment is over. The bottom line is that we all get angry at times. It's good to know how to diffuse that anger and shift a volatile situation into a peaceful outcome. By consciously cooling things down in a heated situation, the best resolution for everyone concerned can be attained. There's a story that's attributed to Alan Wallace, in which he invites you to imagine that you are walking down a sidewalk with an armful of groceries, and someone roughly bumps into you so hard that you fall, and all of your groceries are strewn about on the sidewalk. As you rise from the puddle of broken eggs and tomato juice, you are about ready to shout, "You idiot! What's wrong with you? Are you blind?" But just before you can catch your breath to speak, you see that the person who bumped into you actually is blind. He too is sprawled on the sidewalk amidst the spilled groceries, and your anger disappears in an instant. to be replaced by sympathetic concern. Are you okay? Can I help you up? From this calmer place, harmonious resolution can be achieved by all. We can find peace and tranquility and serenity instead of hostility and agitation and unconsciousness. Now, the invitation is to find the peace in the midst of the chaos. Just because there's chaos doesn't mean that there isn't peace in the midst of it. It is said about Thich Nhat Hanh that when he was still alive, he was capable of walking in a meditative consciousness down streets that were being bombed without getting hit. Each of us can also find peace in the midst of chaos if we set an intention in consciousness to do so. Even if we're not fully shifted down from the anger incident, to the degree that we are able to turn our attention from anger to peace while in the midst of the chaos, we draw ourselves into the space and the energy field of peace itself. This energy then shifts both our internal and our external environment to one of peace. In other words, change your thinking, change your life. We calm everyone around us when we live from the inside out and bring peace in the midst of chaos. Another invitation is to let the waves crash out at sea. Let me tell you what I mean about that. When there's turbulence and tumultuous activity based on anger, we can control the situation by using our imagination to take our anger and let it crash as waves out at sea. To imagine that in our mind's eye, that is what is happening with our anger. The waves of anger can crash and thrash far out at sea while we focus on the calm waters all around us. Through practice and focus, we can use our spiritual tools like meditation, focused breathing, beautiful song, mantras or prayer or a walk in nature or yoga or taking a drive in order to ground and center ourselves. And once we do that, through these combined spiritual, mental, and physical efforts, we can refocus our attention and we can use our imagination to create those mental images in our mind of our anger crashing out far out into the ocean as waves, while simultaneously really calming the waters around us, which then will soothe our senses. The point is to take command of our emotions rather than allowing them to command us. The final invitation is to imagine that the muddy waters become clear. Now, think and consider that what if our inner state started out as clear? We talk about that all the time, that we arrived as a blank slate. So our inner state is clear. But due to our anger, our inner state has turned muddy. With anger, we get hot and flustered, right? Our heart starts racing. We don't think or speak clearly. And we often get anxious or defensive or even combative. Our clear state within, that clear state within that we arrived on the planet with, turns muddy. Again, using our spiritual tools and practices will assist us to pour clear water on our inner state long enough for the muddy water to turn clear. Now, if you've taken foundations, you might remember the demonstration that I did with the water, and then we colored it up a little bit, right? So you could think about that now, but if you've never seen that demonstration, just picture that you have a glass, and the glass is pure, clear water. And then you have another glass that's maybe a quarter mud and dirt and the rest of it water. So the clear water represents a state of peace and calm. That dirty, muddy water represents a state of anger and murkiness. By pouring clear water, by pouring more peace and calm into that glass, and allowing that glass to continue to keep overflowing, there will become a moment in time when that glass is again clear. This is our spiritual practices. And when we do that consistently, and we allow that murky, muddy water to overflow in that second glass, then we can bring ourselves back to a state of calm, a state of peace. Peace overflows as the clear water eliminates any sign of anger or murkiness. Imagining this can assist us to find a space and place of peace and calm in the midst of the chaos. Just imagining that. You know, you've probably heard before that our brain doesn't know whether we're thinking about something or it's actually happening. So just imagining that murky water overflowing with that peaceful water being poured in. Staying calm in the center of the storm is a metaphor for life and a lifelong practice. We can assist to calm the turbulence if we focus on the eye of the storm, where there is peace and calm in the eye of the storm. Reverend Gary Simmons calls this the eye of the storm, the I, capital I, the letter I, capital. He says, at the center of the hurricane is its eye, a single theoretical point in space where the forces of the storm are in perfect equilibrium. The storm of conflict also possesses a center. I call this the eye of the storm. As you can surmise from the analogy, the eye of the storm is your wholeness and spiritual essence. It is where you can experience the storm without resisting it. At the circumference of the storm, the winds of confusion, blame, and the need to be right blow with devastating furiosity. The center, the eye of the storm, is where you experience peace, calm, clarity, and stillness. If there is a storm in your life, you can know that you and your wholeness are at the center of it. Knowing this, you can stop resisting or making wrong those who seem to be against you. You can instead shift your attention and awareness. And you can experience a conflict from the center, where you are capable of authentic and principled action. In the midst of the madness, the turbulence and the upheaval, in the middle of that moment of anger, that chaos, a part of us is untouched. There's a part of us that is the infinite presence itself. It is the very essence of peace, of stillness. It is who we are, even when we are distracted from it. It is who we are. That eye of the storm. This is the eye, or the eye of the storm, and with each breath that we take from that place, we and our world becomes new. It is an opportunity to begin anew, to see with new eyes the possibilities for connection and compassion that are available to us. And as always, it is our choice. So the invitation today is for each of us to look anger in the eye and to allow peace to wash over us. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you all so very much. I now invite you to turn within for a moment of prayer, to really allow ourselves to turn our attention away from the world of form and turn our attention to that eye, that center of our being, that spark of the divine, our Christ consciousness. And to know that it is who and what we really are at our very core, that we can never be separate from it, even if we're distracted from it, even when everything that we perceive to be coming at us from the world of form says something different. The truth is that we are always connected to that center. I know that it is the very essence of peace, of joy, of creativity, of divine right action, of unconditional love, of compassion, of kindness. And I know that I am one with it. And just as I know that that's my truth, I know that it is absolutely true for each and every person here at Sophie's, each and every person online today, or that will listen at some later point in time, each and every sentient being on the planet. We are all divine emanations of the One, ambassadors of its presence on the planet, here to bring forward all that the divine is into our lives. And it is from this place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us today, truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, and that it is well within our capacity to live a life from that eye, to let go of any resistance that we might have, any need to blame, any need to be right, any need to continue to keep tapping into the world of form, even though it does feel so real. The truth is that the realest thing about us is that center, that core. And we can call on that presence at any time through our spiritual practices, through our meditation, through our journaling, through our walks in nature, through yoga, through anything that we do to allow ourselves to be still long enough to hear that inner wisdom within us that is telling us what we need to know about whatever emotion is coming up for us, and most specifically today, anger. To listen to that wisdom that is within us, that is the voice of the divine, to understand what the lesson is in this moment as that anger arises up within us, so that we may learn from it, so that we may grow, so that we may evolve, so that we may uncover the hidden belief behind it and begin to live our life from a new belief, from a new thought, from a new way of being in our life, from new choices, knowing that as we change our thinking, we change our lives, we bring forward our highest and best life into our experience. And when we do that, we give others permission to do the same. And as we all do that, there comes a time when we live in a world that works for everyone. And for that, I am incredibly grateful. Grateful for the power of prayer, grateful for the way that it works, grateful for this community, for our ability to have conversations like this, for our ability to stand firm with each other and support each other as we do this inner work. I take these words and I loose them into that law that only ever says yes. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is. Amen. Amen. So it is now time for our conscious giving. That time during the week when we allow ourselves to give of ourselves, of our finances to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of love and light and warmth in the Greater Triangle area and beyond. And to know that as we give of some of our treasures, that the one giving is really prospers, and that we add to the experience of sufficiency on the planet. And I'm grateful for all of these gifts, for all of the ways that this community gives back to itself, whether it's our treasure or our time or our talent. We really couldn't do this without all of that. So I'm so very grateful. So in this moment, these are the different ways that you can give. Visit our website, trianglecsl.org. Text give to 919-230-8445, or you can send a check to PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina. Let's do our conscious giving affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. Abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. It is now my pleasure to welcome back to her piano the lovely and talented Lola Youngman.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release all the anger in my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am stronger every moment, every day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and true and free. No room for anger now, I know that I am free. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release all the anger in my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am grateful every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know that what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release all the anger in my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am kinder every moment, every day. And I'm more loving every moment, every day. I will surrender every moment, every day.
Having people who to walk this path with you. And Lola and I have been walking this path together for over a decade in a number of different communities and circumstances. And that's one of the things that I love about our musicians here is because they don't just sing the talk, but they walk the walk. So thank you, Lola, for being, taking a risk and being here without your husband. You did great. All right. So if you would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. And on the homepage, there is a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all of the ministers and practitioners. And if anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone for anything, please contact Heather Abbott at info@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. Okay, so one more time, we're letting you know, we're throwing you a couple of curveballs next week. Because next Sunday, our Sunday celebration service will be streamed live from our meditation retreat at St. Francis Springs Retreat Center. So don't come here because we're not going to be here and you're going to have to listen to it from Dunkin' Donuts on your phone. The other thing is that we are moving the time up. So we're moving ahead, or we're doing it half an hour earlier. So the meditation will be at 9:45 and the service will be at 10:15. However, we are keeping the same things in terms of being able to get it online. So it'll be playing on our usual YouTube and Facebook channels. It will be another one of these services you aren't going to want to miss because Reverend Dusty will be speaking from the retreat center after, a weekend of all this great spiritual interaction. So she's going to be on fire, I know. And Miles and Letha Costin will be our musicians. And then the following week, we are going to come back to Sophie's, but we're going to keep that earlier time. So we'll be Sunday, June 5th. We'll be here, but meditation will be at 9:45 and the service will be at 10:15. So we thank everyone for being flexible. All right, now it's time for our May affirmation. So I invite everybody up to stand up, because you want to open up those lungs and really belt out these affirmations to make them so. So this is a call and response, so please say it with meaning and repeat after me. A variety of emotions serve to add spice to my life. I commit to leaning into them and learning from them. I face my fears and allow faith to lead the way. While anger can be like a hurricane, I know that in the eye of the storm there is peace. Therefore, I can find calm waters in the midst of the turbulence. Sadness is a primary emotion that we all feel at some point or another. I surrender and allow the sadness to wash over me and pass. The experience of my life is an inside job, and it starts with me. I am blessed and grateful for my emotions and what they bring to my life. And so it is. All right. And so I will just have us all close our eyes again for a minute. You can sit down. And I will say a benediction for today's services. And, I know what I'm doing is I'm closing my eyes and I'm diving down to the bottom of that pool of my divine essence. And wow, what happened to all those grains and all that sand and grit and mud that I collected last week? They're all gone. I am clear. And so I'm clear about who and what I am. I am clear of my connection with the divine, my connection with each person in this service, each person in this world, my connection with all that is. Oh, it's all clear now. And because we are all one, I know that this is true for everyone who has participated in this service or will do so in the future. And so that just is such a blessing, such a gift, such power. So I know that it will transform our lives next week, that we will move with a lightness and a clarity and a connection that we may not have had before. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this service. I'm grateful for the fruits of this service, which I know will be playing out. I'm grateful for everybody who is here in this community who participated. I am grateful that our new awareness will set us up for having a magnificent week, a magnificent month, a magnificent future. I know it supports us in what our friend Jim talks about our role is to go out and show God a good time. So I know that we're having a good time next week. So I just turn this over to the divine laws, the divine love, the divine way things happen, way things are, and ask you to join me in affirming this with our words, and so it is. So it is.
Thank you all so very much for joining us today. Have a great day and a really wonderful week. Remember, we won't see you here at Sophie's next week, but we'll be on Facebook Live and YouTube. And we will see you back here at Sophie's the 5th of June. I love you all very much. Thank you for being with us.